Welcome to the College of Knowledge. This time, guiding principles of leading in turbulent times. With over 30 years of experience in various senior executive positions, he has served as the CEO of Delta Corporation and is the founder and current CEO of Pathways Africa. Here is Joe Mutizwa.
Okay, thank you. It's good to be here. I see a few friends in the audience, so I'm not in a strange place. When I was asked by the organizers of this conference to come and speak on this topic here, leading in turbulence, and I was told that the target audience are actually entrepreneurs, youngsters who are starting up their own businesses, I wondered what I could bring to them. And I actually asked myself, am I qualified to share my experiences with them? And I looked very hard and I thought, maybe I do have something to share. Okay. And I looked back and I realized that at the age of 21, in 1975, I actually went into a very turbulent situation. I became a political prisoner at Wawa at age 21. And for the next 3 years, 1975 to 1978, I experienced a huge amount of turbulence. Okay. So I thought, well, maybe that qualifies me a little bit to talk about turbulence. Then following that, I became, in 2002, the CEO of Delta, as you heard, and was captain of that ship for 10 years during a period which was extremely turbulent. You recall what we went through, right through to hyperinflation, and ending up in 2009 with a multi-currency system. And I was at the helm of Delta during that time. So I thought, well, maybe that qualifies me to share a little bit of the experience that I've had. Okay. So I've had a bit of experience with turbulence. Leaving Delta in 2012, I have been consulting for a lot of companies in Zimbabwe. So far, I probably have consulted for close to 35 companies since leaving Delta. And in doing that consultation, I've had the opportunity to interact with CEOs and their teams across different sectors of Zimbabwean economy, and thereby picking up exactly what's happening in those companies. So that's my experience, and that's my kind of background with turbulence. So what can I share with young entrepreneurs who are starting their businesses? Divine there and Trevor have been in the trenches. They actually have created businesses which are sizable. But I have been in a situation where I've also done my own investments as an entrepreneur, not to the extent that Divine has done or Trevor has done, but I do have some experience there. So I thought, what tools can I share with entrepreneurs who are budding entrepreneurs looking forward? And I thought I could share with you two things to improve your toolkit for starting your businesses and growing your businesses. And those two things I want to share with you tonight are: one, a leadership, a strategic framework that you can use as you build your businesses. And secondly, I want to share with you a dashboard of behaviors which I think can help you as, in fact, you build your businesses. Now, it so happens I've had the good fortune to reflect on what I'm saying here today. As you heard, I've read and I've kind of written 7 books so far, allowing me time to distill the experience that I've had in industry and put it into a context which can help other people, particularly the young entrepreneurs represented in this room. So I'm wanting to bring some rigor into how you go about business. What is it you can do to avoid the experimentation that so many entrepreneurs all over the world have been doing? What kind of structure or frameworks can you bring to the table to enable you to have a fair chance of actually building a successful business? I have registered an intellectual patent called CAST, which you see over there. And this is a simple framework for going about constructing and structuring a business. And it has 5 elements in it. The context, which really is to do with you as an entrepreneur understanding the context in which you are setting up your business. Very often, this is my observation, very often entrepreneurs plunge into the business without understanding the operating environment. Now, a turbulent time is a very dangerous time for entrepreneurs, in fact, to venture into business without really understanding what's going on in the macro environment. And here I'm talking about everything you can think of. The macroeconomics of it, the socio-politics of it, the regulatory environment, understanding how the political system works, because sooner or later you are going to bang heads with the system. And unless you have taken the trouble to understand what you're doing, you're going to be frustrated. So the context is very important. And the context is the operating environment. Secondly, I urge entrepreneurs to have what my colleagues and I love to call memories of the future. And when I'm talking about memories of the future, I'm talking about the ambition that the entrepreneur has. Okay. If you don't have sufficient ambition, which will take you far, because ambition is the energy, it is the fuel that will take you forward. And that ambition has to be strong for you to be able to climb the mountain. You heard Mrs. Njukula there talking about the kind of hurdles she came across and how she was able to sustain herself through thick and thin, tumbling down, getting up, and moving on. And I'm saying to you, without ambition, a strong ambition, you will not get very far indeed. That is what keeps you awake at night. That is what wakes you up in the middle of the night to move forward. Now, ambition alone is not enough. You need strategy. And strategy is about the choices you make about how you go to market. Now, what I observe with a lot of entrepreneurs is that they do all sorts of things. They get too diversified too quickly. They don't make choices that are narrow and focused. And as a result, they squander and spread their energies over many things. And as a result, don't optimize on the results that they could get. So choose, make choices, very clear choices. And people. You won't get very far without devoting a certain amount of resources and focus on the people balance sheet. It's not just your financial balance sheet that matters as an entrepreneur. It is also the people balance sheet, the number of people that you have and the quality of the people that you have. And finally, of course, it's execution. You can have all the dreams you want, you can have all those things, but without the disciplines to execute, you actually won't get very far. I know that perhaps one of the speakers tonight will be spending a bit more time on execution disciplines, but I just put it there. That's a framework that I urge entrepreneurs to, in fact, to take and use as they develop their businesses. So that's the first part. I promised you two things. First, a framework. Then the key behaviors that will take you forward. For simplicity, I call it 5 to drive. 5 behaviors for driving your business as an entrepreneur. Number 1, awareness. In a time of turbulence, every entrepreneur who wants to succeed should have a very heightened radar screen to be able to pick up signals in the environment and make a move before the competitor does. And this is very critical. That awareness is of incredible importance in the entrepreneur's drive for success. Secondly, an inner fortress. My colleagues that spoke before me kept coming back to purpose and all that. One thing that my experience in Wawa taught me was that you need something deep inside you which will sustain you when you meet headwinds during your journey as an entrepreneur. And that is the inner fortress I'm talking about here. Because guess what? When you encounter problems, when you are in fact in a crisis, you're on your own. It can be very lonely. And without that inner fortress, it's very difficult, in fact, to sustain your business. So, how do you develop that? How do you develop an inner fortress? You've got to go back into your experiences in life. What kind of crucibles have you encountered in your life? How have they shaped you and defined who you are? Because at critical moments, you'll be standing alone. And at critical moments, you will need that inner fortress. So invest time in actually discovering who you are and what your inner fortress is. Number 3 on that dashboard is your ability to pivot at speed without losing balance. Now, what tends to happen for a lot of entrepreneurs is that they've put a peg in the ground and they don't want to change fast when the environment is changing. And what gets in the way of changing very fast is that you actually fall in love with your project, you get invested sentimentally, your ego gets in the way, and your ability to change very quickly is impeded by those things. So, adaptability for entrepreneurs. Don't stay the course, don't keep going when you know, in fact, you're losing track. Have the adaptability to actually do a U-turn if necessary sometimes. Networks. Entrepreneurs by nature tend to be lone rangers. By nature. Mrs. Jukula there will tell you that she's a fighter, but many times she probably felt she was fighting alone against all sorts of people. Now, I want to say to you that entrepreneurs today need not fight alone. They need not be lone rangers. They need to develop networks that sustain them during time of volatility. And the networks are available. They can be found. They can be harnessed. And in fact, it is one of the primary behaviors of an entrepreneur who's going to be successful to be able to create and harness those networks. Okay. Critical issue. And then finally, courage. The courage, in fact, of your convictions. Courage is very different from being reckless. I'm not encouraging entrepreneurs to be gamblers, because if she had gambled with the $1,200, shouldn't be where she is today. But I'm saying that a time of volatility and turbulence is a time of great opportunity. And those opportunities will only be seized by the people who have courage and who are bold enough to go out there and say, this is mine. Okay. But it won't be, there's a warning, there's a caveat. Those opportunities shouldn't be seen as a license, in fact, to bet the house. Okay. Because you can actually lose everything you have if you actually are reckless in the process. So, what am I saying? I'm saying two things. First, there's a framework that entrepreneurs can use in order to build their business models. Context, understanding it very clearly, the ambition, a very clear ambition, the strategy, which requires you to make choices which are clear and specific, developing a talent pool, a people balance sheet, and then sharpening your execution disciplines. But also, of course, the 5 behaviors. Be aware of what's happening in your environment, because it's a dangerous time not to be aware. Process or possess your inner fortress that guides you at time of crisis. Thirdly, be adaptable, be able to pivot when necessary, at speed, and create and harness networks that will help you to navigate the environment that you are in, which can be very turbulent indeed. And finally, be bold and courageous, but don't be reckless. Thank you very much indeed.